The following video is sponsored by Carbon Health. Check out if you are in an area where Carbon Health is offered. We love them, and you'll love them too. All right, everybody, spoiler-heavy review. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. It's me, Kristian Harloff. Thanks for joining me here today. I appreciate it. If you're brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, hey, man, show a little. Just an ounce. Help us get to 100,000 subscribers. We're trying. So you can help us out if you hit that button. A lot of people have seen Guardians 3. Obviously, if you haven't seen it, what the hell are you doing here? I hope that you understand this is going to be spoiler heavy. So this movie, I liked Guardians 1. I do. A lot of people were surprised by it. Count me as one of those people. I didn't love it as much as everybody else did. Everybody was going crazy for Guardians. I thought it was a really good movie, and I liked the dynamic. I liked what they did with them in that first film. I liked how they established the whole crew, and I thought the chemistry was really good. I thought James Gunn put his style towards it. And then the second one came out, and initially, a few different times, I just didn't really vibe with the movie, and not because I didn't think it was funny. I thought that there were a lot of jokes inside of the movie that were funny. I just thought that they were misplaced. I thought that everyone just kind of got jokes to have jokes, and the balance was just off completely. Then I thought, and I rewatched the movie, and I thought the emotional levels on Guardians 2 hit a lot better now, but I still do feel like there's times the jokes are just misplaced, albeit funny. However, as Infinity War and Endgame started to play, and then the Christmas special, the Guardians just became stronger and stronger and stronger. So I was excited about Guardians 3, and one of the main reasons I was excited about Guardians 3 is because I really like what James Gunn has been doing recently. I like what he did with, I loved Peacemaker, I loved the Suicide Squad, and I know that these are different. I know he had to bring the tone down for both of those significantly, but you can definitely tell that some of the things that he's been doing lately and his writing style from those projects have kind of bled over in a good way to Guardians 3. This, to me, and not everybody's going to feel this way, and not everybody's even going to agree. I think there's probably people saying, you're crazy for feeling this way. This is my favorite out of the 3 Guardians movies because of the balance, to be honest with you. And I think that there's even more, a little bit more drama in this one than there have been in the previous ones. I think that we do get the backstory of Rocket, and I love that inside of the story itself, they say this has always been a story about Rocket, and you get that opening shot of him as a raccoon with the other raccoons being taken by the High Evolutionary, and you just get this complete breakdown of who this character is, and the way that they do it. Rocket's story is kind of hard to watch because throughout it, because once he gets shot by Warlock in the beginning of the movie, you're like, okay, well, this is where we're going with this, and he's on the table basically the whole time. But it's him kind of we're living through him through the coma. It reminded me of like The Sopranos. There's an episode where Tony's in a coma, and he's going through a lot of different dreams and things and realizations about his life, and even in general with The Sopranos, they did it a lot with dreams, and this played like that because we got a lot of his Rocket of who he was, why he was the way he was, and what his overall main weapon has always been, and that's his brain, and how he has evolved even more so than the High Evolutionary, and what he was able to do and figure out, and how Evolutionary was so pissed off at the fact that his creation kind of outsmarted him. But what I really loved about this movie is that, where I just mentioned in Guardians 2 that there was this joke for everybody and nobody really had, like, sometimes there was no angle for somebody. They were just there to be kind of like I thought Drax was kind of like a joke jukebox in number 2, where Quill really had the majority of the emotional stuff with him and Yondu, and it was about a father loss of a father and all of that. That was all there with Guardians 2, but like I said, the other characters are kind of just meant to tell jokes. Not the case in this movie. In this movie, everybody's got a purpose. Everybody's purpose. Even people, what about Groot? Groot doesn't really have a purpose. He does, man. Groot has matured from where we have seen Groot. Like, a lot of people don't realize that this is not the Groot from the first movie. This is essentially Groot's child, the first Groot's child. And James Gunn has confirmed as much. But you saw that child kind of evolve from the little shorts when he was the baby Groot to the teenage Groot who was kind of rebelling and where now this is a mature Groot who is really the rock of the Guardians, where when it's time, there's no arguing from Groot this time. He remind me of Chewbacca a lot, where he's there for Quill. He'll jump out of a window for Quill. He'll do there. He's going to be there for him. You know that he's going to have the weapons when it's time for the evolutionaries. Well, wait a minute. They took all the weapons away. Yeah, but not from Groot. Groot's got tricks. Groot had a lot to do. Groot had the maturing. You saw what he had to do. But I would argue. I mean, not argue, but I would agree with somebody who was like, out of everybody, his story was the least fleshed out in this one. I mean, I would agree with that, but I still think he had a lot to do. Gamora and what Zoe Saldana continues, she wins me over every damn movie that she's been doing lately. And what she's got to do, it's a tough job to do, where she's been playing this character of Gamora that we've known for so many different movies, that now she's playing a different version of her, where the Guardians have evolved into the relationship we know, and now this is a different Gamora who has to live in this different universe and is now part of the Ravagers and has to figure out how to, she's kind of hardened, and the old Gamora was very protective over Groot. And this one is kind of frustrated with Groot, and everyone else can understand what Groot is saying, but she can't understand. She thinks it's all made up BS. And then obviously the big relationship with her and Quill, and where she's just going and wanting to blast everybody. And he's like, no, it's not how we do things. It's a great moment with them where he's still kind of heartbroken. And we'll get into Quill in a second, but when they go in and they have the whole Nathan Fillion scene where they're going into this area and they're trying to infiltrate, and Quill has their way to do it. They don't want to hurt anybody. And here's Gamora just going in and wanting to cause violence at every moment, to where Quill wants to use his charm, does use it, and love that scene where at first the woman was like, well, I did think it was I thought you were kind of a creep or a douchebag, I think she calls him. And then at the very end of it, he does use that charm and he's able to get them out of harm's way. But it's that stuff that happens with Quill and Gamora in this that ultimately sets Quill up from where he was in the beginning, where he's drinking, he's not part of it anymore. He's a mess, and it's a reason why he blames himself for Rocket getting taken, because he wasn't on the top of his game. He wasn't ready to be there. He wasn't ready for his friends, so he's kind of beating himself down because of it. And then when every time Gamora's around, he's trying to win her back in the way that he used to be. And there's that great line at the end where Gamora says, I bet we were fun, because these are not the same two people. It's a different version of her. And it's like coping with loss. This whole movie is kind of coping with loss. And and a lot of the Marvel has been that recently, but I thought this was the most effective that they've done it so far. And Rocket is the prime example of that, right? Of coping with loss and coping with the change and coping of what he is, who he is, understanding who he is. To that moment at the end when he's in the hallway, and not the hallway rather, but when he's in the coma and he sees his friends that have been killed, and he's like, all right, I'm going to come with you guys. And it's just such a nice. Bradley Cooper does the best work as Rocket so far in this one. So I want to come with you. She's like, you can, come on. He's like, can I come with you? And she's like, you can. And she's like, but not yet. And she calls him a raccoon. He's like, I'm not a raccoon. And then he wakes up and realizes he is indeed, and he has that big reveal of Rocket Raccoon. And it's like, all right, there he is. We know who this guy finally is through those moments, and the understanding of oneself and all that, and wanting to be respected and looked upon like this father figure who is the evolutionary, who essentially is the reason why Rocket has this high intelligence and all that. And I should bring up that I think that there are two villains in this movie that are really focused upon, and the first is obviously the High Evolutionary played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, and what a performance! What a performance! I said it in my non-spoiler, and this is more of a James Gunn note than anything else too. It's like, but Winston and Coy really brought this up. I had an issue with how much they had the High Evolutionary yelling. I said, I don't know if he really needed to yell all the time, because Chiwetel is such a amazing actor, and when he's intent, it's scarier than when he's yelling. But the counter to that, and you'll see it more in our spoiler discussion that we talk about on Capes and Cowls. The counter to that is that he's really unhinged, and he's really crazy. So like, it's like one of these. I think it was Winston that said it's like having like one of these bosses that doesn't know how to handle themselves. So the only thing that they can do when they're frustrated is yell and scream. So I got it. It was such a minor gripe, because I thought the performances were so good, because you understood. He brought such a understanding to what the High Evolutionary is going through and this frustration in general of this idea of what he wants to create and creating the Zoobly Zoo people and then realizing, nah, kill them all. It's a failed experiment. Who's next? What's next? I have this understanding of what I want to do. And he's all scarred up because Rocket ripped his face off and that's furthered the insanity. So he just does such a great job. Will Poulter is a fantastic actor. He's a really good actor, and I like him a lot. I think that the character of Adam Warlock is going to be the main talking point for a lot of people because he's kind of like A, sidelined, and B, kind of goofy. And a lot of people are saying the reason why is because he's essentially a child. He's only been into the world for a couple of days or whatever it might be. But I mean, I even think you could have maybe even gone more of a Homelander angle with him, even if he was brand new to the world of how it was, because he was, by being so, and I guess you have to also keep inside of the tone of the Guardian stuff, but Warlock was so built up for me for so many years that I thought he was going to be kind of this devastating character, and he starts off that way. When he first shows up, he's kicking the piss out of everybody. Him and Groot have a good battle. He's the one that shoots Rocket, and then he just kind of turns into this goof. Now, there's some good moments with him again, when he completely disintegrates that guy and whatever his mother says to him at that point, she's like, make him, what does she say? She says something along the lines of make him fear, whatever it is. He's like, well, what do you want me to do? It's that whole moment where he just kind of turns it into bones, and you can see like that kind of moment worked. I don't know what it was, but he's you don't see him for a long time, and the High Evolutionary just kind of tosses him to the side at one point, and that was obviously to show the dominance of how the Evolutionary was one we have to be worried about, not Warlock, and I understand why they did that. But there was just something about it. I did like the idea of them turning him and how they turned him at the end, and he's the one, he's saved by Groot, and then because of it, he's the one who saves Starlord, and that reoccurring thing of Starlord being stuck in space and them coming back out to save it. And all those moments, everything kind of tied together well from 1, 2, and 3. Some of the jokes didn't work. Some of the jokes, there were some of the Guardians problems, and what James Gunn always does in his movies. Sometimes some jokes were out there that was like, okay, maybe we're overcooking it, but it didn't bother me as much as it did because like I said, I thought everybody had something to do. And I think Drax, Nebula, and Mantis, all three had so much to do. And I think that they built that relationship in the Christmas special. I do think it's probably beneficial to see before seeing this movie. Probably too late if you're watching a spoiler review, but I think the stuff that they did, because even the line that Mantis and Quill are brother and sister, it's kind of like if you didn't see the Christmas special, you might be like, wait, what? But the Mantis relationship that built with Drax, and Drax, he's definitely got a lot of jokes and stuff in this one because there's things that he says, but it's all relevant within the story. Even stuff when he's like sitting on the couch and putting his feet up and like being able to balance it out with finding out the information, throwing it towards Drax, but also showing, like, I lost my mind and laughed every single time he called those kids morons and idiots because it was to show and represent that this guy's a dad through and through, whether it's dad jokes, doing dances, and the idea that Nebula thinks he's kind of worthless, and then her understanding, the moment that she has, one of my favorite moments in the whole thing, is when she says, I need you here because I understand. I really know what you are and what you're about right now. I need you here. And I guess that kind of and same thing with Mantis, like it's showing what she's able to do and the split that they have. And it's really, again, within the theme of loss and within the theme of that whole situation at the end when Quill's like, I got to go off and I gotta find my grandpa if he's still around. And Rocket's like, what the band's breaking up? And he's like, nah, the band ain't breaking up. This version of the band's breaking up. You're going to have to form a new band. And then Nebula taking over on Nowhere. And then the stuff that happened with what's I forget James Gunn's brother's name in the character name, but him and then shoot, the freaking dog, Cosmo. Their relationship, the good dog, bad dog stuff, everything had a meaning, and everything. It's definitely, it was emotional. It was hard to watch with some of the animal stuff because it's like everybody loves animals, and watching them just kind of disregard these poor animals for just experiments. And the shit happens all the time. And when you see it, it's just it's brutal. It's brutal. But it all worked. Sean Gunn, by the way, is James' brother's name, and the character's name is Craiglin. So when they break up at the end, they have that moment. There's the stuff that happens with like the new Guardians, if you will, at the very end when they're helping out, and they kind of do that overall Rush Braveheart thing that they always do in a lot of these movies, and it worked well. But the one that worked and had questions was Quill being with his grandfather, and then him saying that Star-Lord will return. What that means in the overall scheme of things, I think that means, hey, let's lock down Chris Pratt for at least a couple more movies because we need a few more All-Stars, and let's keep him in the system. But yeah, there's the stuff that, I mean, what I liked is the way that they would set things up and give you a kind of tragedy with it too. Like the stuff with the Zoobilee Zoo people, the animal people, they go to this town, they that scene they show in the trailer, they throw the ball in the kid's face and all these moments that happen. And then the comedic moment, but it's still showing the idea of we need to further the plot before we're just kind of also cracking jokes. And then there's the hilarious moment between Nebula and Quill in the car with the first MCU F-bomb, which was great. What a great bit that was. But all of that, but then to couple that with the idea that the High Evolutionary kills everybody on that damn planet, and you're like, oh, and they don't even spend that much time on it. Just like, yeah, afterthought. They're all dead because that's what we're doing here. And then the kids in the cages was tough to watch. And again, having Drax being able to talk them out of it. So there was just so much going on in this movie, and in a good way. Not like there was too much, it was too confusing. There was so much that just continued to move me anyway in an emotional pace to where I was connected from the beginning all the way through. I mean, again, talking about loss, like Warlock loses his mom, like they also tease you many times over thinking they're going to kill Rocket. That's why I think they made these previews and these trailers to make it seem like, oh, they gave too much away, they killed Rocket. They don't. Quill in space, you think he's gone. All these different things that you think is going to happen, and they never do it. But they do it in a way where it's very similar to what they did with Top Gun Maverick, where you kept thinking something was going to happen to a particular character, and something does happen to other characters. Again, no spoilers to there, but there's this, they tease you with certain things of what ultimately happens, doesn't happen, all of that. And I thought this was done similarly. But I just really, and the music, obviously, the music plays really well. The score, the soundtrack, the way that they use the No Sleep Till Brooklyn. That was the one, by the way, in my non-spoiler review that I was worried about. They had just used it in the Mario Brothers, and I thought, okay, they're gonna just use this to ground. The slow motion, the way it's shot, James Gunn does a great job in not only directing that action scene with that music, but paying attention to what each person is doing throughout that sequence. That's the stuff that really worked. But I've seen a lot of people who love this movie. I've seen a lot of people who didn't like the movie. I saw some people who were just didn't dig it, thought it was too emotional, didn't think it was funny, didn't wind up crying. But that's subjective. I think it's one of the best Marvel movies I've seen in a while, maybe since Endgame. No Way Home, in the area balanced, but this is a really, if I'm a DC fan, I'm going to be happy that this is what James Gunn is coming off of as we get towards the new Superman movie. But that's my stuff. What say you? Did you like this movie? What particular things? Did I miss some stuff? Did you want to talk about other things that I maybe didn't cover? What did you think? Who was your favorite? What angles worked? What didn't work? What jokes worked? What didn't work? Make sure you comment and let me know. I'm very, very curious. And then once again, guys, by the way, if you are brand new, do me a favor, hit that button, will you? Show a little. Get us to 100,000, please. We're getting close. We have interviews with Katie Sackhoff up right now. We have a Freddie Prinze Jr. episode going up. So we got a lot of stuff going on here. But that's the Guardians. That's the spoilers. Appreciate you. And we'll see you on the flip side.